Jalen Hurts is looking to bounce back after a very disappointing season where he threw a career-high 15 interceptions, but with a huge offseason that the Eagles have had, including Kellen Moore, Saquon Barkley, amongst others. Well, during an appearance on the All Facts, No Breaks podcast with Keyshawn Johnson, Lane Johnson, Hall of Famer, he praised his quarterback. Well, he's a future Hall of Famer. I'm speaking it into existence. He praised his quarterback, saying Jalen has had the best offseason he's had since he's been an Eagle. Lane's going to be a Hall of Famer, right?
Yeah, definitely.
First ballot, just making sure I'm not tripping. James, let me start with you, big dog. Jalen Hurts, bad year last year, statistically speaking. 15 interceptions, I think 22, 23 passing touchdowns. Eagles start 10-0, 10-1, and then they collapse down the stretch. Jalen Hurts did not look good, albeit he was battling an injury. Do you trust Hurts to return to All-Pro form?
I don't know if I trust Hurts because I don't know if I trust Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore had Dak Prescott. What'd he do, Dave, turnovers-wise? Led the whole dang league, didn't he?
He did.
Led the whole league in turnovers. So I don't really know how these two are going to mesh. And then when I look at Jalen Hurts, his all-pro year, he had 3,700 passing yards. Last year, he had 3,900 passing yards, so better passing. Rushing yards, all-pro year, 800. Last year, 600. Total yards, 4,500, the same. Total passing touchdowns, 22 all-pro year, 23 last year. Rushing touchdowns, 13 all-pro year, 15 last year. Total TDs all-pro year, 35. Total TDs last year, 38. Turnovers, 8 all-pro year, 20 last year.
Wow.
I don't know if Kellen Moore eliminates those turnovers because he hasn't shown us that he's that type of coach to limit the turnovers. Not only that, how are you going to use Jalen Hurts? You came from Dak Prescott to where you spread everybody out and you threw this ball all over the yard. You trusted Dak Prescott with the ball, and Dak Prescott turned the ball over, but Dak Prescott had a lot of yards and touchdown passes, too, to do that, right? So now you're talking Jalen Hurts. You come from Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert don't run the read option. So is the read option even in your plan? No, I don't know if the read option is even in your plan that you're bringing over there. Your plan says we are going to spread people out and we're going to throw the ball over the yard and we're going to run the ball when we have a chance to run the ball. I don't know if that's the formula for Jalen Hurts to get back to an all-pro year. And turnovers-wise, because the stats is the same, but turnover-wise, if you're putting the ball in Jalen Hurts' hands more to throw the ball down the field, that is going to lead in more mistakes, in my humble opinion. I want to see how him and Kellen Moore work together. What is the plan? How are you going to run this offense with him? Because you've never had a quarterback like Jalen Hurts that is a dual threat that you can do a lot of this stuff with. So I really don't know if he could get back to that all-pro form, strictly because I don't know what his offensive coordinator is going to do and how he's going to use him.
Speaking of offensive coordinators, he's had, this is his fourth in 5 years.
That's another new plan.
So maybe it's not all on Jalen last year. A lot happened last year. Jalen was definitely not 100%. The defense was down tremendously. James just went over the numbers. They were essentially the same. The biggest difference was turnovers. So unless you think that Jalen Hurts, and clearly James doesn't, is going to cut down on the turnovers, then of course he's going to get back to what he was before. Why wouldn't he? The defense, we assume, will be better. Right? Because they were pretty bad last year. So the defense improves. They bring in Saquon Barkley. They still have a very strong set of weapons. Still have the same head coach. If Kellen Moore doesn't do what he did in Dallas, I guess, James does not have any trust in Kellen Moore. You sneak it in every once in a while. I think it is the biggest question mark, though, because he's had a lot of offensive coordinators, and it is a lot of turnover, and it is, as you guys say, like learning a new language. I think that Jalen and the Eagles may have a little bit of an adjustment period at the beginning of the season. But as the season goes on, I think they'll get comfortable and get better, and they'll find a way to work together and elevate what Jalen does best. This is still a very talented team. It's still a team that is perfectly capable of winning the division. I think Jalen's going to get back to, if not all-pro level, he'll get back to close to what he was, and he'll cut down on the turnovers. The turnovers were insane last year, 20-8. That is a significant uptick. That's not like a few. It was clearly the biggest issue. It really contributed to their losses. I think if they can correct that, he will get back to maybe not all-pro, but close to it. And if he is playing at that level or close to it, then they're going to be an excellent team next year.
It's interesting. I don't think Hurts gets back to all-pro level, but I think the players around him do. Because what Kellen Moore does is he features the best players in his offense. When he was with Dallas, Ezekiel Elliott was getting busy when Ezekiel Elliott had the ability to get busy. When he was in Dallas, Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb inevitably getting busy when they had the ability to get busy. What Mike McCarthy helps do is that quarterback going to go crazy. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers, he speaks for itself, and his talent speaks for itself. Dak Prescott had his best season. But if you're Kellen Moore, you're looking at Saquon Barkley. And Saquon is better at what he does than Jalen is at what he does. Looking at A.J. Brown. And A.J. is better at what he does than Jalen is at what he does. Kellen Moore is not biased. Kellen Moore is going to go get busy with whoever he can get busy with. So I believe Saquon will return to All-Pro form. I think A.J. will return to All-Pro form. I think Smitty will have the best year of Smitty's career. But I don't know that Jalen Hurts will return to All-Pro form, because the reason Jalen Hurts was an All-Pro was not because of what Jalen Hurts did passing the football. He hasn't passed for more than 23 touchdowns in a single season, 16, 22, 23. The reason he's an All-Pro is because of 15 rushing touchdowns, 14 rushing touchdowns, 12 rushing touchdowns. I don't know if Kellen Moore, to James's point, is going to exacerbate his running ability. Remember, before Dak broke his leg, and we don't like to talk about this, but Dave, you remember, Dak's first 3 years in the National Football League, 6 rushing touchdowns, 6 rushing touchdowns, 6 rushing touchdowns, breaks his leg. And since then, 2 rushing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown. He's not a runner anymore. But Kellen, he will make the most out of who he thinks is best.
But if A.J. and Smitty have All-Pro years, wouldn't that directly affect Jalen Hurts?
That's what
I think it could, but what I'm really thinking is, I think, y'all know Kellen Moore. He's very gimmicky. I think A.J. gonna catch these now screens. A.J. gonna catch these slants. I don't think it's gonna be like, hey, A.J. go crazy. Like, Jalen isn't gonna look great.
That's not A.J. game, though.
It was Super Bowl
AJ's
year.
go get it guy.
Remember, Super Bowl year, it was freaking RPOs, bombs.
AJ
RPOs,
is a
bombs.
big play receiver. I'm talking about running curl routes, in routes,
Correct.
dig routes,
Correct.
go routes.
I won't argue with you
and
there.
Jalen Hurts is going to have to throw this
what
ball.
what is Kellen Moore? Kellen Moore was not a big shot. Remember what happened with the
so
with
he's
the
finna hurt
Chargers?
the whole offense then, what you saying.
All right.
Because that is not what AJ does.
I'm going to stand up for Kellen Moore a little bit.
What happened?
He had a top 5, 6 offense for most of his tenure in
years
Dallas.
ago.
The one year that Dallas's offense was not top 5, top 10 was the year Dak got hurt. And he still had him middle of the pack.
Correct.
With backups running the show.
Correct.
I think Kellen Moore, I'm not saying he's the best coordinator in the league. I think Kellen Moore is good at his job. I also think Kellen Moore is very adaptable. And that's why I'm hearing all these quotes coming out of Philly. I think Jalen himself said 95% of the playbook is different. I don't buy it at all, for the record. I think this is still going to wind up looking pretty similar.
Really quick.
Yeah.
All right. Did Dak get better without him?
He did. Dak had his best season without Kellen. But Dak had several very good seasons with
Did Dak
Kellen.
get better without him?
He did.
Did Herbert get worse?
The Chargers season was a disaster on a lot of fronts.
Like Shady be doing me.
He got worse.
He got worse.
He also didn't have Mike Williams. He didn't have Keenan Allen for a lot of the season. I mean,
He got worse.
Context matters. That's all I'm trying to say.
What did he have all season?
But
man?
not only did he get
Kellen
worse,
Moore.
not only did he get worse, he wasn't featured. That was the dilemma. Remember the dilemma with the Chargers this past season? Everybody was like, wait, why are they running the ball so much? Like, why isn't Herbert being featured? Dak just wasn't. Now, Dak did have a 37 touchdown, 10 interception season with Kellen Moore.
In
Like, let's not get it
2021,
twisted.
he had
a good season.
and he threw for almost 5,000 yards in 2019, 4,900.
Yeah.
I mean, he got busy with Kellen Moore as his OC, and I think Kellen Moore, like I said, I think he's very adaptable. He's a very smart guy, and I do think that the Eagles are going to succeed, but I think it'll work against Jalen Hurts when you talk about All-Pro.
Yeah.
Because this is a team that I think is going to lean on Saquon,
Yep.
let that be the engine, let Jalen's own running ability be the engine. And one thing that I think has gotten lost here, he was an All-Pro. It is hard to do. The biggest thing for Jalen Hurts winning All-Pro was
They won games.
winning.
Yeah, they won games.
He went 14-1.
Yeah.
So you got to be good. And I think just the way Jalen plays, again, 3,700 yards the way he was with the year he was All-Pro. That's not a lot by All-Pro quarterback standards. So it's got to come with wins. Like Jalen's typical stat line and a 12-5 record is not going to get you All-Pro. Not when Pat's out there, Lamar's out there. Remember, last year was a unique year, and I'll even say this for Dak. Dak probably doesn't win All-Pro if Joe Burrow doesn't get hurt or if Josh Allen doesn't struggle with turnovers. Like, that stuff matters. So with all the other quarterbacks, and then you think about Stroud and Jordan Love joining the mix of these quarterbacks that we expect to succeed, I just think it's a very crowded field. And I think the way that the Eagles need to play to succeed isn't going to lend itself to Jalen being an All-Pro unless they go 15-2.
What is Hurts' strong suit at the quarterback spot?
Extending plays.
With his
Being a
legs
playmaker.
running.
I would say he's a guy that can change the math. That's his biggest thing for me, is his ability as a runner. You don't know how to account for that in the running game. It opens up favorable matchups.
What's Kellen Moore's MO as an offensive coordinator?
But see, his MO is spreading it out and letting his quarterback read the field, but I don't